People in spirit are intelligent, and in my experience, they are dynamically intelligent. Everyone continues to grow and change and form memories after they have passed out of this life. I don't know how that works, but I'm sure that that is how it happens, or that that is what happens. Nobody remains static after they pass. So if your loved one passed in their 80s in a lot of arthritic pain, that's not how they are now. And especially if they were kind of a cranky, unpleasant person, that's not how they are now. It was hard for me to accept when I first was introduced to this world of mediumship that everyone gets better, a little or a lot better. There's a handful of people that I have in spirit who were really awful to me while they were here, and they've always come through very loving and positive when I've gotten readings from other mediums, and with really specific information so that I know it's them, because the contrast between them being really nice now made me not recognize them at first until they kept getting more and more specific when people would read me. So I love how they're so clever, people in spirit, the way they get mediums to say things. Someone recently, I was letting a friend practice on me, and he got someone who I had been close to, someone in spirit. And he said, he got a lot of information about her. And he said, Lawrence, I know you do a lot of theater and even musical theater, and I'm suddenly seeing West Side Story. Specifically Natalie Wood in the movie version where she's singing. I said her name is Natalie. The person that you've got is Natalie. That's why she's getting you to say her name. That's why you're getting that reference. But he thought it was a musical theater reference that he was about to make. I said, no, that's her name. So that's clever, right? Because he didn't know what he was saying, but I did. And I especially like those moments where it makes sense to the client or the sitter more than it makes sense to the medium themselves. So this is really interesting because this has happened to me a couple of times. I had a client not too long ago, and I got a male relative of hers. It was not her dad. And I kept getting really specific stuff about him, and I kept seeing the father from the 1960s Dennis the Menace show, which was still in reruns when I was a very little kid. I haven't seen that show in decades, and it wasn't her dad, and she couldn't take Dennis. So, and it kept coming back to that. My attention kept being drawn to that actor. So I said, you know what? We're on Zoom. Let me Google him. And so I Googled it. And the actor's name is Herbert Anderson. And so I said that to her, and she said, oh, Anderson is the family name. That's why you're getting that. That's fascinating to me because I have no conscious memory of that actor's name. I imagine I must have watched the credits for that show when I was a kid because I was babysat by the television when I was growing up. But I had no way of knowing that. So it makes me wonder, can they rifle through experiences that we don't even remember we have, or memories? Because clearly Anderson was the name I was supposed to say. So I thought it was really fascinating. And that's not the first time I've gotten a movie or TV reference where the name of the actor that I didn't know their name was the name of the person that I was connected to in spirit. I just think that's really interesting how they figure stuff out like that out and get us to say things. I also recently had a client who kept saying, no, 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 no. I was connected to a man in spirit. And it was a little frustrating. And then it occurred to me, I said, oh, are you hoping to hear from a particular person that's passed? And she said, well, there's a couple of people I would like to hear from, but I really am open to hearing from anyone. I said, I'm surprised that you don't understand this and this and this and this and that about somebody, or most of it. Could you maybe understand most of it, not all of it? And she said, well, I do understand all of it for a particular person, but we never got along. It was mutual. I didn't like him. He didn't like me. He would never come through for me. And I said, well, yes. And I've got this on my website, right? I said, yes, he would, because he's someone in spirit. He wants to communicate. And you're someone he knows who is sitting in front of a medium. So can we get him out of the way? And then I'm sure someone else that you want to hear from will come through. And that's exactly what happened. But it was frustrating that she kept saying no, 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 when she could, in fact, take it for everyone. But they know, right? This guy knew she was in a session with a medium at that point. And so he made it a point of coming forward. And so that knowing that they know what's going on in our lives, they know what's happening. It's really interesting. Several grandmothers and grandfathers that I've connected with have conveyed to me that they're still grandma, or that they're grandma anyway, or grandpa anyway. And it took me several readings to figure out the reason they were giving it to me that way was because the grandchild had been born after they had passed. And they were saying, doesn't matter, I'm grandma, or doesn't matter, I'm grandpa. And I've had a couple of people who have said, well, they wouldn't know them because they were born after that person died. And I've had to say they do know, they're intelligent, they know things like that. So, and that's something I had to change my mind about when I began doing mediumship, because I thought that we only had relationships with people in spirit who we had known. So I was talking about that with my mom once. I remember she kept talking about her grandmother, which would have been my great grandmother. And she was talking about something about my great grandmother in spirit. And I said, well, I never knew her, Mom. Like, that wouldn't be my relationship with that soul. So I'm sure that's not how she would view me. And it turns out it is how they view you. Family is family, even if you're born after they've passed. Several people have made that I'm grandma anyway kind of conveying that to me. So I just think it's fascinating that they know things, they know what's going on in our lives, and they have opinions and form memories. Don't have a lot more to say about that. Next week, I'm going to talk about people in spirit appearing younger than when they passed. Whether you dream about them, someone you love that's passed, and they're much younger than you knew them to be, or it's not uncommon for mediums to connect with someone conveying themselves as younger than when they passed. That's super common. I want to talk about that. So until then, thank you for watching, and leave your questions or comments below, and I'll try to do a video on that. Thank you.